Joining us now, CNN senior military analyst and former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, retired Admiral James Stavridis. It's so good to have you here with us as we're getting this new information. We are, as we've noted, hearing from Vladimir Putin this morning. First, I just want to get your thoughts strategically on what Putin is saying and what you think it might mean. Read between the lines for us.
Putin is trying to accommodate President Trump. He's trying to stage manage the conversation. He's trying to be a little obsequious to President Trump. I hope none of that will impact how our president goes into this meeting. And the key here, I think, is we need a president at this point who is going to be very stern with Vladimir Putin. We need the president who ordered the bombing of the Iranian nuclear program. We need the president who ordered taking out General Soleimani of Iran. I think just like Iran, Russia is a nation that responds to strength. And I know President Trump has the cards to play. And I think I am very hopeful that's exactly what we'll see here on Friday.
And when you're looking at those cards that the president has to play, that's sanctions. What else? Walk us through what those are.
Sure. Let's put sanctions at the very top. That's secondary sanctions against nations, particularly who are buying oil and gas from Russia. As John McCain used to say, Russia is a big gas station masquerading as a country. So take away the funds that come from oil and gas. Secondly, it's the Russian monies that are currently locked up in Western banks, 300 billion in Europe, about 10 billion here in the US. Apply those toward Ukrainian military needs. I'll add a couple more. I would send them more F-16 fighters. We have accommodated F-16s in their hands. It's making a difference in the air war. I'd also provide more offensive cyber capability, as well as better and more precise intelligence, also long-range weapon systems. And then finally, I think it would be very important to put all that together and to say to Vladimir Putin, look, one of your red lines is Ukraine joining NATO. If you don't come to the table and negotiate, we're going to walk away from this meeting and start a conversation with Ukraine about joining NATO. Look, we don't want to get there on any of this. What we want is Putin to take a ceasefire in place and come to the negotiating table. That's the desired outcome.
Yeah. We also know that President Zelensky's in the UK sitting down with the British Prime Minister today. And Zelensky said they talked about kind of gaming out what the outcomes of this might be and talked about some of the security guarantees that Ukraine would need. What would those look like? And are they realistic, getting those security guarantees for Ukraine if there is indeed a ceasefire?
Gold standard, of course, would be actual membership in NATO. I think we can park that to one side for the moment. That would be a complete deal breaker. But what are the other ones? Bring them into the European Union. There's a certain level of security guarantee within the European Union. Number two, as just discussed, Jessica, would be to amplify the channel of offensive weapons that are going in, not accept any cuts to the level of capability that we're currently providing the Ukrainians. I think number three would be to training missions for the Ukrainian military. They're currently conducted outside of Ukraine. Perhaps talk about bringing those inside Ukraine, direct training by European troops. And I'll close with this, Jessica. You had the conversations a moment ago of the Europeans with Zelensky. I think it's fine that President Trump and President Putin have an initial bilateral meeting. Next, most obviously, you get Zelensky into it. To my eye, what we need here is quad talks. Russia, U.S., Ukraine, and the Europeans. Have Ursula von der Leyen, the leader of the European Union, at those conversations, ultimately going forward. There are really four parties involved here.
Yeah. All right. Admiral James Stavridis, always good to see you. Thank you for your time this morning.